Hi, everyone. This is Dan Harris, and welcome to the IronBird podcast. On today's podcast, we have Curt Marker. He's an experienced pilot, businessman, and real estate investor. Curt, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Daniel.
Do you want to explain your credentials and your journey into aviation?
Yeah, I am a third generation pilot, actually. I got into it through the family business, you could say, and always knew I wanted to be a pilot around aviation, grew up around it, going to the Carlsbad Airport here right locally. And
It's a similar story to a lot of different pilots I talk to.
Yeah, and it's a pretty great job to follow in the family footsteps. My grandpa retired from U.S. Air years ago. Grandma was a flight attendant. Father just retired from American Airlines, who's now back in the corporate world, flying a little bit for fun.
Yep.
And then that's how I got into it. So I always knew I wanted to be a pilot from growing up. And but I have a different business aspect to me. So I've been flying. I've flown mostly Part 91 private airplanes. For individual owners,
Yep.
and then also I've had some airline experience. I kind of like both worlds.
Yeah.
One's for kind of security, as when you're flying the Part 91 stuff, a lot of airplanes, they get sold, people, they die, they retire. I had a G5 just get sold out of Carlsbad that I was flying. So I like the security of having both.
Yeah.
It's one downside of the career. If you're not at a major airline or something, that you're probably going to be changing multiple companies.
Yep.
But before I became a pilot, I had an interest in finance and economics. So I got a degree in economics, and I've always liked the business side. So I was actually a financial advisor, but I didn't really like the commission only and the pressure sales. I wanted to just help people make money. And the company I was working for was a large one. I liked it, but I just didn't like the bosses breathing down my neck.
Yep.
So I said, hey, you know what? I'm going to transition back to chasing my career goal of being a pilot. And that's what I did. So I wanted that stability of income. I think stability is a great thing. And now I have the best of both worlds, flying and helping people invest in real estate.
How many pilots do you think juggle the maybe full-time commercial type of job, if it's commercial or flying for UPS or FedEx, and then also fly on the private side?
I would say it's a small number. I know a lot of the circle, but then the more people I meet in the industry through sales or brokerage or charters, like you start learning the more and more of them. So, really, I bet you it's like a 1 or 2%.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of pilots. American alone has 16,000 pilots. So if 1% of them are doing things in the charter world, I've seen some like DOMs at companies that also have an airline job. You got to definitely, some airlines don't allow it, some do.
Yeah.
There's got to be some transparency there.
Yeah.
But it's a small percentage, but I would say that pilots generally have a decent amount of free time, and we like to use our brains. So there's definitely pilots that are like a contractor.
Yeah.
They kind of have a side gig going.
Yeah. What's been, take me through your flying experience. Where'd you start? What airplanes and experiences have you gone through the years of your pilot journey?
Yeah, it's a great question. So once I got my commercial license rating, I guess it will, in 2010, I really didn't have the money to go get my CFI. I was kind of working a couple jobs to get through my ratings. So I became a ferry pilot, which was really just ferrying small aircraft from multiple brokers all over the country. It was great experience because you're flying airplanes you don't know. From then, after years of doing that, I met a broker moving an airplane, and I got an offer to fly a G3 in the right seat. And that was a great offer at 1,300 hours. And then after a while, it was a great job, 4 days a week for a little while, and then the job changed to about 28 days a month, always on the road. I wanted to surf. I was engaged at the time. I wanted to plan a wedding. Boss wasn't allowing that.
Yeah.
So I knew, and I actually called a friend of ours, Casey Miller. He did both, and I said, hey, what do you think I should do? Should I find like another Gulfstream job, or should I just take a pay cut now before kids and go to the airline? So I actually went into the airline, regional airline, which didn't pay much money at all, but man, I got great experience and really became a good pilot through there. So I went to a regional airline called SkyWest. Then I got hired at Virgin America. Alaska bought us, and then transitioned over to American just because I wanted to fly wide bodies long term. So I've and then really what happened was when COVID hit, airlines weren't flying. So my private friends started calling saying, hey, do you want to come fly some Part 91? Got approval from Alaska, and that's what dove me right back into flying corporate Part 91.
And then you were flying G3s, and then what did you end up flying again when you went back into the?
Yeah, so I kind of flew a couple G100s early on, and then one of the brokers bought a G400, and that went out for lease. And he goes, "Go type yourself, and they'll hire you, but like they're not going to pay your type, like, but you're a contractor." I said, "That's worth it because I can control my schedule."
Yeah.
So if I had to go fly at the airline, I wasn't on somebody else's call. So I ended up flying a G4, and then realizing, man, I have business, sense.
Yeah.
And I started going, man, I can save this client money on gas here, this and that. And I really enjoy corporate aviation. So I moved up into the next year, met a guy that liked me. He said, "Hey, we got a G5, if you get qualified in it." So I ended up getting qualified in that and flying G4s, G5s and 550s as well.
What's that process of getting the qualifications, and how are pilots, from what I understand, sometimes an airplane owner will hire you and pay for that type rating, right? Versus you're going out and you're paying yourself for that type rating. How do you juggle that to be like, all right, do I want to look for a job that's going to pay for this type rating, or should I just jump in and believe in myself and pay for that type rating myself? And what do those type ratings cost?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would say 99% of pilots look for a job for stability, security, all of those reasons, and the company or the individual would type you. And what that means is type ratings are anywhere from 2 weeks to 5 weeks, depending on the aircraft. The smaller aircraft, maybe a PC-12, I think it's like a 12-day course. There's just less systems and less involvement in that, and less simulator sessions, because maybe it's a simpler airplane. When you get into the Gulfstreams or the Globals, the larger aircraft, I mean, you're looking at like 25-day course, and you kind of do 5 days in a row. So by the time you're actually done, you're looking at like a 32-day time frame. An example is like I'm looking at upgrading to a G600 type. So right now I could go look for a job that would type me. Okay, but then how am I going to juggle all the other business things I do? I go to real estate events, and I like traveling with family. So for me, it's at this point in my career, I'm not looking for that job that will type me. But the type rating is $100,000 for that type. So you have to equate how much demand is there, how many supply, how many aircraft are looking for some contract work, and then what's the day rate. So how many days do I got to work to pay off this $100,000 type? But then what people forget is you have to take 30 to 32 days off of contract work. So if you're doing 50 or 60,000 a month, it's not just the $100,000 you're paying for. So it's definitely a gamble. But I think people that are good at networking and they do what they say, they're good pilots, good communicators, all those things, as long as you have demand. So for an example, the last couple months, I've been looking at demand, putting feelers out for friends that run G600. How many contractors you guys use? And a lot of them owe me favors because I use them on G4s and G5s. And they're like, as soon as you get type, we'll use you a little bit as a third pilot or a backup.
They say, how hard is it to find pilots for this type, and what's that demand? For other pilots that are in, say, a G4, and they're saying, all right, here's the G4 market, here's what I'm getting paid, I want to extend my career to the next level, I want to get paid more. How do you think they should go through a decision tree to be like, all right, do I look for another job? Do I just go get a 550 or 650 or G700 or global type rating? Like what would you tell other pilots to be like, all right, here's the decisions that you should go through in your head to figure out how do I excel and push my career forward?
I think the first step is to look at how big is your network. Do you talk to a lot of pilots, or are you the pilot that shows up to work and you do your job and you go home? And maybe you don't even enjoy it. So you have to kind of feel out, who do I know that flies better aircraft or a step up from a G4? A G4 used to be a great aircraft. It's still a good aircraft to charter, but it's kind of an entry level airplane now. So you do want to move up. The next step, in my opinion, is a G5 or a 450 or 550. They're all the same type, but it's just a newer G4. So it's a very easy transition. The first step would be, does the company you work for, do they have one? If it's a charter company, hey, do they have G5s? I would be going to the chief pilot, the DO, making sure that smile's on your face, and hey, I really want to advance. At any business that you're in, if you go to your boss or in your employer and say, hey, I want to advance and do better for the company and myself, that's a great thing to do. That'd be the first step. Second step would be, who do I know that's flying bigger aircraft, or maybe at a better charter company or a better Part 91 company. So it first starts with networking. I believe that in all aspects of aviation, whether it's brokerage, pilots, or whatnot. That's the first step. The second step would be if you have maybe a set schedule at a job, you're on 7 on, 7 off, you want to keep that job, maybe you could look at going to get your own type rating in a G5. The discounted rates are somewhere around $35,000 for a type rating. So
wow, that's a big difference from the $100,000 type rating that you were looking at.
Correct, yeah. So like I've researched, for me, I'm in a position where do I get a 650, a G650 type rating? They're running about $68,000. It's still a lot, but then or do you just move straight up into a 600 type rating? The 700s you actually cannot get a class for, or else I would seriously consider that. The one issue, like for me, looking at a G700 is there aren't very many delivered, and most of the people that got them delivered have 4 crew, up to 6 crew already. So how much work is there? There's a couple guys I know, then they're making $6,000 a day.
Wow.
So you really have to have that client where I know 1 or 2 people with G700s, they don't really use contractors. They got 4 to 6 pilots. I mean, you're dealing with the billion-dollar companies at that rate.
Large corporate that are upgrading airplanes every 3 to 5 years.
And a lot of them stick with their pilots.
Yeah.
They're already flying G600s or G650s. They get the 700. They're just hard to break into the large companies. So if someone's in a G4 or a Challenger 350 and they want to move up to a Challenger 604 or the 6000 Global Express, your network is a really good thing. And also experience on type. Someone with 1,500 hours that just got typed in a G4, they're not going to qualify for insurance on a G650. Now, some people will say, well, my buddy, and I've heard of pilots that have 500 hours flying G4s. That wasn't me, and that's really hard to find. So it's up to your network, because anything is really possible.
How would you tell pilots to build and grow networks like that?
That's great. So I think dressing professionally and really caring about your image. You'll see pilots maybe not shaven, not a clean haircut. We're dealing with people with money. That's what this business is, and I believe it's not just flying, it's a presentation, what you do for them. But as far as
customer service,
it's a customer service job. The piloting is 10% of it, right? But the number one thing is like be presentable. Don't be, I know pilots that as soon as they're done flying, they're like in casual clothes, but these are kind of my casual clothes now because I care about my image. Some casual clothes people will throw on like shorts and a beer tank top shirt. Now, if you walk into the FBO and there's a big client there, that your image is different. If you're in a tank top and shorts and flip-flops and like that's the pilot, like you're representing the client on the aircraft in the FBO. So first step, like really care about your image. The second step is be approachable. I'm pretty much smiling because I'm a happy person. Even on a bad day, it's like, the day will move on, right? So I think being approachable and also saying hi to other pilots in the FBO. Too many people land, when we fly 12 hours to Italy or something, you're tired. I'm still nice to the FBO guys. Talking to other pilots on the ramp is the first step, is a big step. And I think the last part is like using LinkedIn. That is such a big, I'm on there every day now. And whether it's for flying and adding pilots and having small talk for mostly G600, G700 people that are above me. And then I also get messages from new pilots, and I'm happy to respond to give them some advice.
On the other side of that coin, with airplane owners, and they're looking for pilots to hire, what are some things that you would tell airplane owners when they're looking at pilots and they're interviewing different pilots? What are some of maybe the small nuggets that they can, either questions to ask or things that they should look for to be like, hey, this pilot's going to be a good fit for me?
I think now that I got almost 10,000 hours, my answer has changed. Where in the beginning it was like, who's a really good pilot that hasn't been involved in an accident in this? But now I think it comes down to personality. So if I were to go buy an aircraft, you got to be qualified in insurance and have some decision making, which really comes with hours. But I think asking personality questions, something like, hey, tell me about your worst experience in an airplane and what happened. And how they answer that. Is it someone else's fault? Or are they blaming someone else? But how did they work as a team, and how did they make a decision to come to a conclusion and land the airplane safety, and what the outcome was? I think number one, that just is going to give them a personality, crew-like, you can analyze that based on a crew. That's probably the most important. The second to me is why they do the job. do you just fly for money, or is it because, no, hey, I really love what I do, I like traveling? If you hire a pilot, it's like, I'm just here for money, and you use them too many days on the road, they're going to get burned out. There's definitely a balance, but I think personality questions and how they deal with other crew members. And then maybe the third and last question I would ask would be, tell me a few things that you went above and beyond your last client and what that meant. Like me, I'll go to Whole Foods and shop and stock the plane. A lot of my clients, they don't have flight attendants. They want privacy. They don't even ask me. And I go, hey, I noticed the waters are low and you guys like glass bottles. Do you want me to go on the day off? No problem. So that's like just a small example, right? So if I got to order catering, like I'll send reminders like, we got a 12-hour flight. Do you? And he's like, it just happened to me in London. He goes, oh man, we've been so busy. Thanks for asking. And it's like, let me get the menus. So it's really easy. How do they go above and beyond for you? It's a service these people want.
I think it's the same thing on the charter side. It's anyone can take an order and book an airplane, right? Anyone can do that. But what can you do as, from a customer service standpoint to make it, extremely easy, unforgettable, and, memorable that, hey, these guys went above and beyond to make sure that everything I needed was covered? Like, what are the questions they're not asking that you can get in front of?
I think it is agree, and agree. It comes with the pilot even on the charter side. So when you're charter brokering something, you're hoping that the pilot will go above and beyond as well to help your service. And I think that's where, pilots on the charter side often get tips. And it's not just for being a nice guy. It's like the whole experience overall.
And another part about the hiring pilots is you're creating a team, right? You've got your captain, you've got your co-captain, sometimes flight attendant. When owners or management companies are building that team, what are some of the things that you think work when you put two pilots together that work really well? Or how can you get in front of things that maybe, to get in front of things that they're not working well, that you're going to say, oh, these two pilots are going to butt heads, they're not going to work well together?
Yeah, I think it's kind of tough until you're really in the cockpit, but I can tell you, like, someone that's laid back, but I also take the job very seriously, and the checklists are there for a reason and things, but you can approach things laid back. But then there's also, maybe you could say, some former military types. Some are real laid back and some aren't, and they're not used to dealing with passengers, where they're like, their only mission is the plane, right? And so, but then I'll come in as a former corporate guy or a current corporate guy and say, hey, but let's just say it's a weather, for example, and the military guy goes, no, we're good, we're just going to go through it, whatever. But me on the conservative side is thinking about passenger comfort. So I think backgrounds are one thing, but really I think it comes to an interview and knowing, hey, this guy's like not very likable. He's a little like hard edge, and he doesn't smile in the Zoom call interview. And then if you have someone like me, or that has a personality that's warm, like, I can put up with that, but I'm not going to enjoy that for years. I want to also have fun on the road or have a good, relaxed experience, because if you put, let's just say, a militant style captain in a new low-time pilot in a G4 that's got 1,500 hours, they're probably not going to speak up if there's a safety thing or maintenance going on to someone that's pretty closed off. And there's a lot of pilots that are like that. And it might not just be former military. I just use that as an example. It could be someone that's been flying the same airplane for 20 years that just thinks they know it all as well.
That's interesting. When airplane owners and charter companies and 91 companies are building crew members together, when they have to decide, hey, we're hitting a certain amount of hours on this airplane, and call it 300-400 hours, we're going beyond that, we need to add a third pilot. How would you tell people to analyze the difference between having a contract pilot for that third pilot or potentially hiring another full-time third pilot?
I think it comes down to how many days that you're on the road for pilots. So every pilot wants to work the least amount and get paid the most. That's the cush job. They're out there. They're hard to find. Maybe they don't last that long. But for most companies on Part 91, you're seeing between 10 and 15 days is like a great number for pilots where you're working half the month. And a lot of people watching might say, wait, but you guys work less than a normal job. Well, 15 days on the road is really like a 40-hour work week, right? So I think most pilots would say, hey, I'll do 15 days. Anything but above that, I got to be compensated as a bonus, or I want the ability to have some time off and go to my kid's birthday party, go on a family trip. So really, I think it's how far and above and beyond 15 days. And then also, you as an owner, sometimes you can't find a contract pilot. If you ask me for a contract pilot in July when everyone's in Europe, it is very hard to find one, especially if it's last minute. Now, if you had a third pilot on rotation and you knew, hey, we fly, we have it in the budget, even if it was a discounted crew member with lower experience, as long as your other two guys are high experience, that's an option out there. I know people that do that. And those are pilots that maybe like it's their retirement job and they're like, yeah, I'm just in it for a little bit of money. Kind of like my dad. He's like, I just need a little bit of boat money. I don't need a full-time job. So second part is like you would have a pilot on call if one of your guys got sick or females, you'd have that extra person. So, but if something happens and that pilot's sick, where I got the call and it's like, can you go to the airport now? Luckily, I've been able to do it sometimes. But half the time you can't. You're like, no, I'm like doing some or I'm on another flight. So there's a constraint there. So how important are those flights? Are these flights on your department to go on vacation that can get moved by a day waiting on a pilot? Or are these business meetings that are really going to take the company to the next level? You don't want to, if you're talking a little bit of money per year or per day, you don't want to be dealing with missing a meeting.
The 15 days is interesting because you as a pilot look at 15 days and you say, all right, I'm spending all these nights on the road away from my family. But some airplane owners or just other, like a dispatcher or a charter salesperson, maybe like 15 days, like, yeah, I would love to work 15 days. Or even an airplane owner, he's like, I'm going to hire a guy and he's only going to work half a month for me and I'm paying him a full salary. But can you explain to people like what it's really like to be on the road for 15 days?
Yeah, and one of those things is we're not just working the 15 days. If we're leading up to a European trip, we're working with dispatchers, planning, hotels, cars, whatever it may be for us and the owners. We're working on landing permits over in Europe or Tahiti, dealing with all kinds of different things. Like Tahiti and Italy, you got to have the airplane sprayed. So we're trying to order supplies. Yes, some departments have, director of maintenance, but they're not always, they're making sure the airplane is safe to fly. So the pilot side, it's not really 15 days. 15 days means I probably leave the house at 6 a.m. and get home at midnight.
Yeah, it's not a 9 to 5.
It's not a 9 to 5, 8-hour shift or 9-hour shift with an hour lunch. There's days where we do 20 hours part 91. And like going to Europe and stuff, you're at the airplane 2 hours prior, 3 hours sometimes in places that are slow on gas. Then you're flying 12 to 15 hours, clearing customs. I mean, those days get pretty long. So it's 15 days sounds kind of easy, but I'll tell you right now, 15 days, you're getting worn out. Some of the days are easy. You go do a quick little 30-minute flight, sit around for the client for a couple hours to do their meeting, go home. That's like a great, easy day. But there's plenty of days that are very long.
From a pilot's view, and you've flown with different people that, large management companies, small individual owners, for an airplane owner that's looking at a management company, what do you think, makes a good management company versus maybe a great one?
Good management, I think, number one, knows how to assist in hiring the right people. But I do think that owners should be involved with hiring their crew or their pilots and their mechanic, because these are people that are going to be taking care of them and their asset and their lives. So a good management company, number one, can attract the right people. A poor management company is not really going to attract pilots. Pilots right now know which management companies are not great to work for based on what pilots say or have quit and left. So that's one thing. The second thing is, a management company is your partner in managing that asset, just like in real estate. So, how many airplanes do they have under management? Is it 2? Why aren't you growing? What's the goal? Most of the time you see the larger management companies are growing because they have so many different people working there to manage your asset, where a small management company maybe has 1 or 2 people overseeing it. That could be good or bad depending, right? Because you could have most of their attention, which is great. But after years of flying, I'm realizing the larger companies have so many people that you can call and get assistance on, whether it be pilots, mechanics, like a straight number to Gulfstream to get parts. Like, they have more resources And that's a big deal for an owner. But I think treating them like, hey, this is my asset and my safety. What do they bring to the table? You know, the other big thing with big management companies is they get larger fuel incentives.
Yep.
So if you may want to go with a small management company that you feel like will really be eyes on the airplane all the time, which is true, but they're not going to get the volume of fuel. So the management company might not save you much per month, but if you're spending $100,000 a month or more on fuel, now if you're getting $1 off a gallon, you're going to really see some significant savings.
What are some things that owners should be asking management companies that would give them a feeling that, hey, these guys are operating my airplane safely and they're managing it correctly?
Yeah, I think number one would be, how many aircraft of this type that you own are you managing?
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be the first type in itself. Yeah. A few things on that is because they would already have the crew members, pilots, flight attendants that are already equipped and ready to go and trained on that airplane.
Maintenance, they have the tools, they have the parts.
Maintenance, tools, she'd have familiar mechanics. So instead of an aircraft owner going, hey, I know this guy that's a mechanic. Well, he was working on Cessna 182s at a flight school. That's probably not the best mechanic to bring into a really good jet flight department. So the tools, and then the other thing is like, can they share who are the people that you're managing aircraft for? Some of them they might not be able to share. The high clientele really like to be, you know, kept off the books and whatnot. But I'll tell you right now, some of the bigger companies I fly for, I know the names that they manage, and it's some of the wealthiest people in the world. Yeah. So if the wealthiest people in the world and their attorneys and tax advisors trust this management with the asset, that's a good indicator that they would be loyal and do a good job on your aircraft as well.
With pilots and careers, if you were, say, 21 now, would you still choose an aviation career path?
I think I would overall.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit different because I love busy, and I'm one of the busy brains. Some pilots I know, they love their life. They go fly there 15 days and they play golf all the time. Yeah. It's just not me as a person. But overall, yeah, I would go right back. Hey, I'd want to be a pilot with some secured income. It's fun. I travel to awesome places. The amount of money I'd have to spend on the cool places I see per year, it would be just, I couldn't even afford all of it, right? So the experience is great. The camaraderie, having another pilot, working as a crew, even accomplishing a flight, it feels good. Satisfaction. Yeah. And every day is different. I worked a corporate job before, 5 days a week in accounting or whatever. There's no way I could do 40 years of that in my life. So even though I love the real estate side hustle that I have and whatnot, still I'd go back to aviation.
Do you think new pilots should be concerned about some of the new technologies that are coming on and autonomous flying? Do you think pilots that are coming up should be concerned about that?
I think it's a good reason to be concerned, but I will say, I think in at least my lifetime, being in my early 40s, there won't really be any autonomous flying. You may see in 20 years it go down to really automated flying with one pilot working as a manager on the aircraft. I think you could see that, but I think we're like 20 years out. Yeah. I think it would start with FedEx and UPS packages, not people. But aircraft are getting simpler to fly. Mm-hmm. The software, AI, the systems are getting easier. But I also think there's more and more money being made in the world where more companies and people are buying aircraft. Yeah. So you hear about pilot shortage, you hear about this, and it's kind of like any different business. It ebb and flows. Sometimes more airplanes are ordered during COVID. There were so many airplanes bought. And go to college. You don't have to study aviation. Get a business degree. Yep. People don't understand how important that is to managing an aircraft. Where a pilot can be a pilot, or you could manage an aircraft, you could start a company, such as Casey Miller did. I mean, that's a great story. So there's so many great roles in aviation where a pilot is just part of that.
For pilots that are looking for roles, what are some of the things that when they're either like looking through jobs or interviewing, what are some of the things or questions they should be asking or looking for in these roles to be like, okay, this could be a good fit, or maybe there's some red flag things that you'd like, maybe I should stay away from this job?
I think the biggest thing is for me is, what is your philosophy on maintenance and how do you track it and things like that? Because if I go to work, every time I go to work and fly an airplane, there is a slight chance that a maintenance problem could happen that we don't come home. Mm-hmm. That's the scariest part in aviation. I don't live my life sweating that every day, but I also want to know what aircraft, how it's maintained, who's the mechanic. So any job that you're looking into, what is that company's maintenance plan? What does it look like? Do they have a mechanic? I love the companies that have a mechanic there every time the jet leaves and every time I land. I think also if you're a pilot, you kind of got to know what you got to get out of the job. If you got 500 hours and you're looking for a low-time pilot job, it's not probably going to be your forever job.
Yeah.
But maybe you get lucky and you know one of the owners and he brings you in. Well, what is that, aviation department or job, position? Can it expand? Are they going to buy more airplanes long term?
Yep.
But I think, and also how you could grow. So if you're looking for just a pilot job, then that's great. But if you're looking to really be a top tier pilot that learns more, I would say go, ask the questions of, is there a chance that I could help learn some management, help learn some maintenance? And I would want to, that's what I would ask. More questions to see what you could develop more as a pilot.
When pilots are looking at 135, which is charter flying, versus 91, which is only flying for ownership, how should they be comparing those two types of jobs?
A couple of the pros and cons that they can compare is, charter 135, the schedule, asking the schedule. There's so many different ones. Some are 7 on, 7 off. Some are 14 on, 14 off. Some are just, you get 7 hard days off a month, and it's, that's 23 days on call. So there's great things to charter, so I'd ask the schedule first, right? I mean, pay is a good thing, but quality of life's a big deal.
Pay is the pay is all going to be within the same range.
Yeah, especially when you're dealing with charter, I think. Part 91, the pay can be pretty different because the charter company is not telling the airplane owner, like, hey, this is what you could pay or average. And even if they have a management company, they're giving them a scale. Now, someone like myself that has all these skills to save them money and can really explain, like, hey, I'm more elite, and I literally had this phone call yesterday. I'm more expensive, but this is why. I've been doing this long. I'll save you money, these things. So Part 91, though, you might not have a schedule. So I would ask the questions of, hey, what is your schedule like? How far out do you know the schedule? Are there any last-minute pop-ups? For someone like me that likes to surf in the morning, I don't have my phone on me for 2 hours. Like, are you going to call me at 7 a.m. and go get to the airport in 30 minutes? That's not a job that I would like. But if you were at home and you're a younger guy with no kids and you're good with that, that may be a great first job. But Part 91, again, I guess I would ask those questions of maintenance. Do you have a maintenance director? Where Charter 135 has a maintenance director, because that's going to come down to safety. And it's also like if you're in charge of some of that maintenance and they don't have a director of maintenance on 91, they're going to look at you of why a part broke and the airplane's not flying. So I'd really ask those key questions would be schedule, flexibility, maybe some time off. How many weeks of vacation would I get? Most charter companies have it pretty standard because they have multiple pilots. But when you're flying Part 91, there's typically 2 pilots.
Sometimes I've operated plenty 135 airplanes, only had 2 crew members, and it's like you got to mold your schedule with this other person's schedule. You got to take the same time off to take that. You got to kind of manage that, which makes it kind of difficult. We talked about incentives and pay. I've read about and heard about some pilots being incentivized for charter hours, where it makes sense from a charter standpoint. The more charter hours you're flying, you're going to incentivize pilots for that. But do you think that creates any additional pressure for pilots to keep airplanes flying to hit those bonus hour numbers?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great to have money-motivated people, but when it comes to aviation, it's got to be safety, because overall, that's the highest revenue stream. Really, is going to be if the aircraft is safe, there's no damage, people get to their destinations safely. It would create pressure because pilots want to make more money, and what will happen is they'll probably start flying more tired. So if they get a call like, hey, can you do this charter today? And they're really fatigued. The problem is when you're tired and didn't sleep well, you start making poor decisions and you don't even know it. That's an issue. So I think it's a good idea to motivate your team, but I think there's a fine line of pushing too hard, and almost like the company's got to know when it's too many days,
How do you manage fatigue as a pilot? Like, you want to be there for your boss, right? You want to be there for your other crew member, but you also, like you said, don't want to start making those bad decisions. So how do you, and how would you suggest other pilots manage that fatigue and give that feedback maybe to your owner or your operations team that, hey, you're pushing us too far?
Yeah, I think one important thing is like I try and sleep well every night. Even with 2 kids and running all this, I try and sleep well. That's a big thing with brain function of what I've learned is, you got to get those 6 to 8 hours of sleep. There's plenty of times, especially overseas, where I'm sleeping like 3 or 4 hours due to time change. And I'll let the owner know, like, hey, just FYI, I'm pretty tired. We can still go, but like, I think eating a decent diet, exercising regularly, sleeping well are the most important. But I think also, like, if I'm tired and I know I shouldn't fly, like, I have no problem telling that.
Yeah.
The owner,
That must be a hard conversation for a lot of people.
It is. And I think it comes with age. When you're newer, and the client tells you, hey, I have to be there for a meeting, whether the weather's crappy or something's wrong on the airplane, as a newer pilot, you typically go, whatever that guy says, because he makes all the money. Now, when you start getting older, you realize safety is the #1 thing, and most clients, whether it's a charter or an operator, they will, they will accept it when you say, hey, the weather's really bad, we are not leaving.
Yeah.
When you take charge as a captain or a crew member, go, hey, it's not safe right now, our #1 job is to get you there safely.
Yeah.
And the people that don't agree with that, I don't need to fly for them. And there's plenty of people out there like that.
Yeah.
But as far as fatigue, you got to speak up, talk to the other pilot. The other pilot can make a decision to call management or even the owner.
It's a stressful job being a pilot. Flying itself is difficult, weather, all the issues you're dealing. Like you said, every day you get in an airplane, you say this airplane, this may be my last flight. And I think that probably has a lot of kind of mental health stress. And it's something that not a lot of people talk about. There's some good voices now, I think, on mental health, but like, why don't you think mental health is talked a lot about in our space?
Yeah, it's a high pressure job.
Yeah.
A lot of people think, hey, being pilot's great. Going to Fiji, going to Cabo, these overnight, that is the good part of the job. The hard part is you're dealing with high net worth clients that are usually very busy, demanding, and they usually get their way, and that's what they expect. So balancing that with learning and being comfortable with saying no to certain things, like, hey, if we have to delay for weather. I had to delay on a big client where a client of mine was like, these are my big billionaire bankers from China, and I had to delay. We were going to the Masters in Augusta 2 years ago. I had to give them a 2.5-hour weather delay, and I knew it was the right call no matter what. We landed like within 5 minutes of the weather being gone, and it was bumpy going in, and they said, wow, this would have been a lot worse, huh? And I said, yeah, this is like fine. So the mental health thing is tough, and I think it comes back to how a person and a pilot hand side and ride a bike or go golf or go surf. So I think it's how you handle it at home, how you handle it on your days off, and what you do on your overnights.
Yeah.
I'm not one that goes out big drinking on overnights and stuff like that. It's not me.
But I feel like the drinking and alcohol use, I mean, I enjoy a drink myself, it's become almost part of the culture of being a pilot. What do you think? And drinking, I think, has really gone down in the newer generation. So I don't know if maybe younger pilots are doing it less, but what do you think we should be telling pilots about, that the stress, and then maybe it's like you got the added stress of the job, you're kind of trying to blow off some steam at the bar, and now you're even fatigued. That adds more stress. What is it? Should there be programs? What should we be doing to help pilots deal with these things?
Yeah, that's a good question, because there's not really any programs out there. I've seen some pilots as a side business, open up some like how to lose weight, how to control stress, how important exercise is. And I think that education is starting to be out there. I know with the airlines, we're taking fatigue training courses every quarter. Most of it is about sleep and getting help if you have a drinking problem, things like that. The airlines do a good job. I don't know on the charter world, but on the Part 91 world, there's really none of that. There's just not. So I think it's just educating the public in general. And I agree that aviation comes with drinking. We go to a networking event or MBAA, it's literally who throws the good parties, and that's where we end up at.
Yep.
But that's a good time for it. No one's really flying. We're all on business. But I think it's, how do you educate the newer generation on controlling yourself on some overnights and thing. And I'm not sure how you start it, but I think with social media, podcasts like this, platforms, I think that's how people start learning.
Yeah, good to just kind of start talking about it out in the open. You mentioned AI when we were talking about autonomous flying. Where do you think maybe the simpler forms of AI can help pilots like today, right now?
The simpler forms, honestly, I don't use a lot of AI in flying, but I will say like technology such as ForeFlight is starting to use it for like weather reports and things like that. I will say I haven't used it yet, but I'm using ChatGPT quite a bit.
Yeah.
It makes me want to throw a flight plan in there, add some different amount of information and see what it will give me. But I think you're going to see things like that a lot more accessible towards aviation.
Yeah.
And you may know of some. I don't yet, but I think you'll see a lot more.
On the business side, we're starting to see a lot more. But I'm assuming on the flying side, it's like when you see things with like airports that have traditional flow delays. It's like, all right, if I'm going into Vegas on this day, can AI tell me, hey, traditionally, if you're leaving at 10 on the second Friday of September, over the last 10 years, you've had flow delays. So it's like, all right, well, maybe I can get in front, instead of just like, firing the airplane up and having ATC tell me there's going to be a 2-hour delay, telling my passengers, hey, historically, we've seen these delays or when you're departing at this time, right? Any of that info, like it can just capture so much and analyze so much information and historical data that I think like that's probably one of the early things that it should best get in front of those potential issues that like it's always tough when these things pop up, and it's like, all right, even now, like when we're trying to get in front and provide more customer service, like to Aspen, we say, oh, you want to leave Aspen in the afternoon in the summer, traditionally we see winds pick up and you're more than likely going to divert. And they're like, really? Like no one's ever told me that. It's like, well, just historically what we've seen is Aspen flights in the afternoons have higher winds. It's just how the weather flow is. And then boom, when it happens, it's like they're not happy that they're driving it an hour, but now it's like they feel a little bit more informed. I think that's where like AI can start to help us inform our passengers a little bit better.
Yeah, because right now it's based on experience.
Mm-hmm.
So I can tell you San Francisco, if you go there for business, there's flow all the time there. And we can't guarantee them that we'll even get in on time until the morning of. Yep. Aspen's another great example.
Yep.
And that is a hard approach, even for someone like me with 10,000 hours. Yep. You have to be on your game. And the winds can change actually en route on flight.
Yeah.
So I like to prep clients, even charter clients. Hey, there's potential that you will not land in Aspen. Yeah. We will have to go to Eagle or Rifle, which is a longer drive. Yeah. And then sometimes you can still move the airplane the next day, get them out on their return flight. But AI, I love where you're going with that. Yeah. I think that's a big a plus.
When we talk about removing pilots from the airplane, people say it will technically be safer, right? Because most incidents are pilot errors. Do you think AI will help some of those pilot errors getting in front of those? Yeah, and would you agree that most incidents are pilot error?
I would not agree that most incidences are pilot error.
Okay.
I don't know the stats on it, but I will say how many incidences that aren't recorded that pilots saved. Mm-hmm. Because our job as pilots is to manage it, right? So they're not, I know there's some NASA reports and things like this where, hey, this incident happened, but we did this, the outcome was successful. So I don't think they include a lot of those stats. I think AI can help run a flight efficiently, especially with the planning. Maybe it can help analyze like how many miles to go around weather, where right now it's what have you learned and what are we taught? And what have you learned from experience by flying too close to weather for a bad ride or get yourself in a situation? You do that. As a pilot, you have to lean on a captain to teach you, or other pilots when you're hanging out at the bar having a beer after a long day. Yeah. Like, hey, we had this coming in. So it's all based on experience, where I think AI and using data from the past, if more and more pilots understand that, it's going to create a safer environment.
Yeah, and hopefully, it's sped up so quickly that hopefully we'll see. But traditionally, and maybe I can get your take on this, why do you think us in the aviation space, I feel like we're so far behind from a technology standpoint? Like, why is that?
I think we are.
Yeah.
Because I see it in regular business, the AI is like, it's moving at I feel like a year in advancement every week.
Yeah.
It is amazing. And I don't think aviation is implementing, to my knowledge. I think aviation is still old school. We're seeing some good technology advances, but it's more like with the CRM and financial model and things like that, where it's just speeding that up. But flying and overall, like operating an aircraft, is so human oriented that I think we're afraid to give some of that up. And honestly, some of that may be for good reason.
Yeah.
How is AI going to react if a windshield cracks in a Gulfstream on a charter flight? Like, I'm not sure how it would react. Do I think we could train it to where, I mean, I know Garmin's getting pretty wild with some of their aviation, some of their technology where they have a push to land button, Cirrus included. That is great. And I hope to see more of that, whether it's on the airline, because the airlines do not have that right now. Do we have autopilot? Yes. Do they have auto land? Yes. But they don't have something where if a hijacking happens or a 9/11 and push a button and go straight to the nearest airport, I'm hoping we catch up on a lot of that.
Yeah. From your personal favorites and perspectives, do you have an airplane that is just like your favorite to fly?
Yeah, I mean, because I'm flying the Gulfstreams, I think there's a difference between me going checking out and looking at an airplane that I could potentially buy in the next few years. I'll start there. I love like the Phenom 100 and 300. It's a single pilot airplane. The 100 is not a high entry cost, you know, in my opinion, and it's built so well and it's small and compact.
Interesting you said the Phenom 100, because that and the Citation Mustang I kind of look at and compare. Like, how would you compare the Mustang and the Phenom 100, like pros and cons of each?
So the Mustang is a little bit smaller cabin, and also the stairs leading into it. I feel like the Phenom, with the stairs that drop down that you hike up instead of the split door and all that, I feel like it sits higher, so it feels like it's got a better ramp presence. I think the cabin feels a little bit bigger, but also it's got newer automation in it. So it's got
It's fly-by-wire.
It's fly-by-wire, and I feel like, like I said, I've flown in the back, haven't flown in the front, but sitting in the front, everything is designed very well for a single pilot, very easy workload. Pilots with low time that have some money can hop in that thing and fly it pretty easily out of like a Cirrus prop. Now,
what's the Phenom 100's cost right now?
New, I'm not sure, but the used market is like anywhere from like 1.5 million for kind of a high time to, you know, 3 to 4 million, but
very attainable. Like
very
you
attainable.
can get a loan for that. And you can buy that.
You can have a small business, have a partner, and go grab one for 2 million, and it's a great airplane. Now a lot of people say there's not a lot of range on it, 1,000-mile range, and if you load it up, you might not even make Cabo. So it depends on what you're looking for. But
anywhere I go, I mean, Denver, Tahoe, Bay Area, Scottsdale, Vegas, like that's all. If I were to buy an airplane, that's my travel requirements. Probably very similar to people that, hey, that would work really well.
Yeah, and it's a compact airplane. It's got enough baggage, and it's affordable. It doesn't burn that much fuel. Now, if you said, what's your favorite to fly? I like flying the G5. It's not as new as the G550, but if I had a set amount of money, or you said, hey, I want to go buy a wide body, you know, a large cabin aircraft, a G5 is that sweet spot where they're a little bit older, so the price point's anywhere from 6 to 10 million, 6 being a very high time airplane that might have some maintenance issues, to, you know, the 8 to 9 to 10 million range. That airplane can go all over the world. You can fit, you know, up to 18 people on it depending on configuration. And they're very reliable. And I talked to a mechanic that works on some airplanes right here. He has a 450, 550, 650. And he said, hey, if I were to choose the best one to go all around the world with several times, it would be the G5, based on some of the older technology. They don't have as many issues, where some of the new aircraft, they're so technological advanced, can't say the word, but it causes issues.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. And a lot of the new airplanes, I remember my Citation Bravo pilots said, I love the Bravo because it doesn't, there's not all these bells and whistles that are gonna, some like a little wire burnt out here, so it's gonna flag like all these knobs and things. It's like, it's a little bit more mechanical and it just works. And if you need to get from point A to point B, you know it's a high percent of the time it's gonna get you there. And the 5 is kind of like that. It's a little bit more mechanical, not as many systems and computers that, hey, it's probably a little bit easier to maintain when it's like, all right, I need to maintain these parts and these mechanical parts, and I know this thing's going to perform the job.
Yeah, and a lot of the equipment on the 5 compared to the 550, we can swap boxes. The mechanics can literally unplug and plug back in, and all of a sudden it works.
Yeah.
It's just kind of how it's set up.
Yeah. Now, if you were to, outside of like brand new airplanes, say you had 20, 30 million, what are the airplanes that you're saying, hey, these are the airplanes I'd love to be in?
I mean, yeah. I mean, then again, so you're going like Phenom 300. I know it's not 20 or 30 million, but that is a great airplane with 1,800 miles. I mean, then if you wanted to move up, I mean, a G650, you know, you're at the 30 million mark, but that thing literally, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, everyone had that airplane before the newer ones came out. But you know, the newer Globals and Gulfstreams are all in the 60 to 70, 80 million dollar range. That's a big ticket.
Yeah, when I always look at it from the 550 to the newer airplanes, like what are you getting more from, like the 550 can almost do everything that these brand new airplanes can do, right?
So really what you're getting, you're getting a couple things. Some of them being a lower cabin altitude. So instead of being like 4,000 to 6,000 feet when you're going to, let's say, Europe or somewhere far, now they're at like 3,000 feet. So you're less tired and fatigued, whether you're a pilot or the owner sitting in the back. That's one thing. The second thing, long term, those airplanes will last 30 years. So if you're at whatever age and you're like, I want to buy one airplane forever, that Gulfstream will definitely help me repair for the next 30 years. That's really what you're getting, where you're going to see the 5 and the 550 10 years start to phase out. Gulfstream has said the G400 to 500 to 600 to 700 to 800, they're all the same equipment types. They designed them all the same. That is going to be their primary and only focus in, I would say, probably about 10 years.
Yeah. Do you have a very, like a memorable or one of your favorite flying experiences?
I do. You know, I mean, I got a lot of them because it's just, I love the job. I love going to islands like Tahiti and the beach things. So when you're landing in even St. Martin, right over the beach, and people are there, it's really fun. But the most memorable experience that I've ever had flying was when I left the finance world and came back into aviation. I'm like, I want to get paid to fly to Hawaii and go surfing. As a big surfer, as someone that went to Hawaii in 2014, flying at Virgin America, whenever it was, I did my Hawaiian checkout. So it's a captain and then me in the right seat as a co-pilot, and you have like a check pilot in the middle teaching you all the Hawaiian stuff. But coming into the Hawaiian Islands, sitting on an airliner, it hit me emotionally.
You made it. You did it.
I set out and I did this goal.
Yeah.
You know, that was a big deal for me, and I'll never forget it.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a great trip, but that experience it's still fun today, even taking off and landing in Hawaii. But
what's one piece of advice that you would give airplane owners to retain good pilots?
I think treating them with respect and treating them a little bit more like family than just an Uber driver. I tell people, we're glorified Uber drivers, and that's really what a pilot is, but they're also a lot more. So the better you treat your pilots, maybe you're treating them better than your admin assistant or someone that can be easily replaced. I don't think it's that easy to find a pilot that really you connect with personally. The more you connect with them personally, the more you appreciate them, let them have certain days off for family or Christmas, things like that, if you can. They're gonna stick around for a long time, but also they will go the extra mile to save you money. And when we're talking save you money, it could be millions of dollars per year.
Yeah.
I mean, you could incentivize a pilot, you know, give them whatever the raise is, 10% a year or something, or 5%. You give them a bonus. We remember that because it makes a big difference in our family.
Yeah.
And we're going to try and help the owner out as well.
What's a piece of advice you'd give to current pilots that want to maybe do a little bit more than just flying, how to kind of expand that career and maybe get some more, you know, financial, long-term success?
I think reaching out to people on LinkedIn or social media, if you see pilots that are flying G600s, G700s, I love when rampers come and they're filling up the airplane. I gladly invite them on the airplane. Hey, are you working on your ratings?
Yep.
So I think if you're a newer pilot, like talk to pilots that are further along, aware. I still want to go talk to G700 pilots. Who are you flying for? What did you do to get there?
Yep.
So I think always trying to level up and learn something. But as a pilot, if you can learn more things that you can bring to a table, you're going to have a better career.
Yeah.
You're going to probably long-term have more stability.
For the pilots that want to reach out to you and connect with you, what's the best way for them to do it?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram or LinkedIn. I mean, LinkedIn's probably the best place because I don't get as many messages, so I respond a lot better. But yeah, LinkedIn, if you look up Curt Marker, I'm on there every day.
Awesome, Curt. I appreciate you coming on. Thanks for providing all your guidance and wisdom for pilots and airplane owners and your approach on flying airplanes. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yep, you got it. Thank you for joining us here. This is Dan Harris signing off at the IronBird Partners Private Jet Podcast. Thanks.